Hignet's corner, beyond Bent. Janssen! And Blackburn Rovers are 18 minutes away from a Premiership return.
As far as Stewart, just outside the penalty area, clips it central for David Dunn. David Dunn equalises! It just had to be. Dax corner and it goes. Glance towards goal! And Rovers have taken the lead! And Charlie Mulgrew has scored his 14th of the season. It may well be the goal that sends Rovers back into the Championship.
Good evening, Rovers fans, and welcome to another edition of On the Other Side Live with me, Ryan Hildred. Comfortable win for Rovers last night, wasn't it? As we ran out 4-0 winners at home to Peterborough. But attention now quickly turns to the weekend as we travel to Stoke for a good test of the playoff ambitions for Rovers that might just be starting to form with us sat in 7th place. And giving us the lowdown on the Potters tonight is Daniel Buxton from Every Step Along the Way podcast. How are you doing, Daniel? Can we hear you?
I'm doing fine, thank you, Ryan.
We can hear you. There we go. Thanks for joining us, mate, and giving us the insight on Stoke City. And Rovers fans watching, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you aren't already. And please hit that bell symbol to turn on all notifications as well. And as we always say, please give this video a big like for us. Super Chat is available as it always is. And a big thank you to our sponsors, Blue Rose Capital and 6yardsout.com for their very, very kind sponsorship as ever. So, Dan, let's make a start on the preview then. We'll just chat a little bit about Stoke and the season so far. I think the consensus this season is that the overall quality in the Championship is probably a bit lower. Not much to separate the sides, certainly outside of the current top three. And Stoke find themselves currently in 6th place. You are 2 points off West Brom in 3rd place. So how pleased are you with the start to the season so far? And are playoffs the ambition for the fans this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the summer it was a bit strange because we didn't quite know how it was going to go this season. Obviously, we had Tyrese Campbell at the start of last season, and then when he got injured, it all sort of fell apart after that. And we sort of hovered just outside the playoffs for the majority of the rest of the season without actually winning many games. As I think you can do in this division, don't you? If you just pick up the odd win, you can sort of still hover around just outside. So it's going to be interesting, really, to see, obviously with Tyrese being out for so long and him being such a key player for us, could we be in a decent position when he returned? We've done that. He's sort of now coming back into the team, getting some minutes under his belt. Still not looking that sharp, to be honest, but he's getting there. I mean, he scored a good goal last weekend. But obviously now, Harry Suter, who has been out far and away our best player this season, we've now lost him near enough identically, like to the same day, to the same injury. So yeah, it's we've done a lot better than I thought we would do this season so far. And hopefully we can get over this bit of injury crisis we've got at the minute and keep going.
Yeah, and we'll. I want to talk about the manager in a moment, but let's just look a bit further into the start so far for Stoke. So a bit like Rovers, your league position's quite predicated on some decent home form, actually. So you've lost just 1 game in 9 at home so far this season. That was to Bournemouth. We've lost 2, which was to Fulham and West Brom. So suggests that it's going to be a tough game for Rovers on Saturday with your home form. What kind of game plan can Rovers expect from Stoke on Saturday with you so strong at home? How have you been beating those sides?
Yeah, so what we've done this season, we've sort of gone with the 3 strong centre halves, wing backs that are the attack. That's where the attacks come from, through the wings. So we've got Tommy Smith putting some good deliveries in from the right, and then Josh Tyman, he's just using his pace, getting up and down the wing on the left. And he's just sending crosses into the box, and that's where it's coming from. Quite a high press as well, so not really giving the opposition much time on the ball, not letting them play out. And obviously we've had like Powell and Vrancic in midfield, which has been obviously helpful in creating chances. But I don't know if obviously Mario got a bit of a knock in midweek, and Nick Powell's out with a broken leg at the minute, so he might not see either of them at the weekend.
No, and obviously you mentioned Harry Souttar. I did want to mention that as well, actually, because as well defensively you've been pretty solid. Just the 20 goals that you've conceded so far this season, which is the 6th best overall, and only 8 goals conceded in 9 games at home as well, which is pretty good as well. Big blow, obviously losing Harry Souttar to an injury when he's not even playing for Stoke. You know, he was playing for Australia, which must be annoying. So how important is he, and how much of a miss do you think he's going to be, particularly with those defensive stats that you've got there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've conceded those 8 goals at home. 3 of them were in 5 minutes against Cardiff as well, where we just had a mad spell and threw away a 3-0 lead. But yeah, Harry Souttar's been...
Oh, we've lost Dan. I'm cursed with losing people on streams.
Oh,
can you still hear us?
Are we back?
You're back. You've got a black screen, but carry on. We can hear you. Hopefully,
sorry, I don't know what's going on. I'm bad internet. Must be where I am. Yeah, it's Harry Souttar's been far and away our best defender this season, about our best player, really, to be honest. And I think in playing in the centre of the 3 as well, we've had Joe Bursick in goal, who's good with his feet, good distribution. Souttar in front of him, great distribution. And O'Neill's sort of gone for 11 people who are comfortable with the ball at the feet, so that we can always, I think then, what he's aiming for is everybody has an option. Everyone's comfortable passing to everybody.
Can you still hear us?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
You can. Good. You're there.
Yes, I think, and that's what it was, because him in the centre then, we sort of started the attacks with him. And some of the balls, you know, he could play out from the back, short passes, long passes. Like I say, he was just sort of the focal point for everything. And like I say, with him obviously 6'7", fantastic in the air as well, defensively, and setting us up attacking wise. He's just been so key to us. We really are. When the news come through, it was like really gutting that he picked up this injury, and you thought, there was interest apparently from Tottenham, Everton, been scouting him for a few weeks, and talks of £20 million plus bids in January. The only silver lining you can see is that he remains a Stoke player longer than that.
Well, obviously, Rovers, we've gone through it twice, actually, with Bradley Dack. You know, he did an ACL injury as well, came back, and then we lost him again. So, we share your pain in that regard. So, best wishes to Harry Souttar in his recovery from that injury. Not a nice one at all. So you spoke about the style of play there, Dan, and just looking at the key metrics, things like possession, pass completion, shots on target, things like that. Fairly standard for Stoke this season. You're either mid-table or slightly higher for those metrics. But one thing I did notice was you are top of the discipline table, or should we say bottom, 44 yellow cards and 3 red cards. So are Stoke still that side that gets stuck in and in line with that reputation that I think's just really stuck with you since you had Tony Pulis? Are you still showing that edge in games?
Do you know what it is, right? We weren't... And we were talking about this actually on our own podcast like a couple of weeks ago. That Cardiff game was a bit of a turning point because we've got quite a young side. I mean, the 3 centre-halves, when they're all fit, are all like 21, 22. The goalkeeper's 21. Obviously, we've got Josh Tymon's 22 at left wing back and that. And so we've got quite a young defence. And that Cardiff game where we conceded 3 in 5 minutes, I think it's sort of like there was no control there. There was no understanding about how to sort of stop momentum when it was building, and how to, when it was 3-1, they couldn't stop it going 3-2, then they couldn't stop it going 3-3. And it's funny because the next 2 games we played after that, we won them both 1-0 away, and we picked up, I think it was 5 yellow cards in one and 6 in the other one, and they were all for you would say like there was a couple for time wasting, and they were mostly like just professional fouls, if you like, just breaking up the play and stuff. And it was as if they're trying to learn where the boundaries are with that. They've sort of been the managers obviously said to them, you've got to be more streetwise in the games, but they don't really know where that boundary is. So they've picked up an absolute ton of yellow cards in about 4 games. They've picked up, and I'm like, yeah, they'll learn. You'll find where that boundary is, what you can do and what you can't do.
Well, that takes us nicely, actually, into I did want to talk about the manager, Michael O'Neill, and obviously great success at Northern Ireland. And you've spoken about the yellow cards and maybe some of those data arcs, which I'm sure that Northern Ireland were up to as well. Really helped Northern Ireland overachieve in many respects. But I think I'm right in saying that O'Neill probably does have one of the better records in the Championship over the last 12, 13, 14 months. So what is the view on the job that O'Neill's doing at Stoke? And, what are the fans thinking about him? This is his second full season. He's been there 2.5 seasons now. What is the view amongst the fans?
Now, me personally, I love him. I was amazed when he sort of came to Stoke as well. I thought like a Premier League club would have been after him, to be honest. That's the job he'd done at Northern Ireland. But he's come in, and where Nathan Jones left us, we were staring at League One. We were bottom of the league. I think we'd won 2 games out of 16 at the start of the season. We were like the next Sunderland, if you like. That's where we were heading. And he's come in, and the thing as well, there was such a bad atmosphere around the club as well, because they had a lot of players from when they were in the Premier League who were still hanging around, who quite verbally didn't want to be here. And they were on that big money. So it was like trying to get them out. We'd had Mark Hughes, Paul Lambert, Nathan Jones, Gary Rowett, all in a short space of time. The board always backed the managers, so they'd all brought in their own players. And so we had a massive bloated squad of people who literally nobody on big money, and nobody wanted to be here, but we couldn't get rid of anyone. So that he came in and he literally laid down the law. I think Nathan Jones's problem maybe was he didn't quite get the respect to the players, whereas he came in and straight away he got them on side, saved us from relegation, pulled us up into mid-table amazingly by the end of that first half a season. And he's just built it from there, really. He's last summer, I think he had to sort of get rid of 23 players. Wow. Yeah, and obviously bring in, but with financial fair play, he was then wheeling and dealing to bring people in for nothing. Like we sold Nathan Collins for about £12 million, and I think the majority of that money probably went on paying off all these other players who we wanted out of the club. So we didn't actually see much for. I think like Sam Surridge really was the only cash signing that we brought for like £3 million, £3 million. So to be honest, the job, if you look at it from when he came into where he is now, he's done an amazing job. And football fans are fickle and short-minded, aren't they? We lose a couple of games and everybody's, oh, this is boring, this is where he's got to go. But if you actually sit down and look at the job he's doing, and it's going to take time to rebuild the club from where he was when he came in. It wasn't an overnight job. And to be honest, the fact of how many youngsters he's bringing through as well. I mean, everybody loves to see youth team players coming in, don't they? And he's the first Stoke manager in a long, long time who's give youth a chance. And it's bearing fruits at the minute. We're doing really well.
It's like you're reading my script tonight because you're segueing so nicely into my next question. I did just want to ask you about, the philosophy at the club now, because O'Neill's probably had to really adjust, hasn't he? Because he came in November 2019, and that was probably your last season with the parachute payments from the Premier League. But obviously, it's now your 4th season back at Championship level. So really, parachute payments are gone, plus the impacts of the pandemic, and then all of those things that you said about financial fair play and things there. So have you seen a change in philosophy from Stoke and from O'Neill to reflect all of that reduced spending? And, what are you seeing him do now, Michael O'Neill, even in the time that you've seen him?
Yeah, to be fair to him, even when he first came in, he wasn't scared of chucking certain young players in. If he was basically, he must be the motto of, if they're good enough, they're old enough.
Yeah.
And it's like I say, nice to see people like Josh Timon flourish in that, because he came into this club as an 18-year-old when we were still in the Premier League, and he was hung out to dry really on a couple of occasions. Like I think his first 2 games were like, I think it was Chelsea and Man City away, where he just literally come in because Mark Hughes wanted to rest other players. And obviously it's not going to do his confidence very good, because then we lost 7-2 and 5-0 those 2 games. And the Nathan Jones sent him out to Portugal. He was literally he played about a dozen games in 4 years before Mark O'Neill's really got a hold of him, and now he's been one of our key players this year. And it's things like that you can see. He's such a good coach, and he's improving these young players and bringing them on so much. But he knows when to put them in, when to take them out, when to, how to just give them a dip of the action and stuff. He's building, like I say, around the youth, and it's exciting to think, that this team, and then how together they are as well. You see at the end of the game, because obviously they are all young lads. They enjoy each other's success as well. There's no egos, which was a real problem when he came here.
Yeah, real similarities to where Rovers are at, actually. You're absolutely right. It's so nice seeing young players come through from the academy and get the chance. And certainly Rovers have got plenty of them. And we certainly don't have egos in our squad either. So some real similarities there with what you're describing between Stoke and Rovers. So let's look towards the game then, Dan. We're approaching that run of games through to Christmas. And I did notice your next 4 games are against sides who are probably fancying themselves for a playoff push at this stage of the season. Rovers, of course, Middlesbrough, QPR and Coventry. Certainly, this is a game where I think it's a true test for Rovers. And if we have got ambitions, we're coming up against a good side who have got a good home record, who are thinking about playoffs as well. So even this early in the season, how important are you viewing, the game against Rovers and then these other 3 games where you're against sides in and around you, which just tee you up for the new year? How are you seeing the next few games?
Yeah, it's going to be a good test, really, because, like I say, they're sort of back-to-back against teams who, I know it's, like I say, it's still early in the season, but they're sort of 6-pointers, aren't they? They've got sort of 4 6-pointer on back-to-back. Because obviously automatic promotion, you're not even thinking about something like that. I think that's tied up with Fulham and Bournemouth. So it is literally, I think West Brom, they'll get, they're going to be sitting for a playoff place, you'd imagine. So it's sort of like, filling one of the other positions, isn't it? And making sure that you take points off the teams around you is going to be vital, like I say, come May. I think, I am a bit worried for Saturday, I'll be honest. Obviously, we had a game last night where we just couldn't score. Got plenty of chances, but just couldn't finish them. But yeah, we are sort of injuries and suspensions now coming in. We are, with Joe Allen getting a red last night, we are sort of down to the bare bones a bit. And I know, like I say, you guys, you've been flying, haven't you? Especially like with our old boy, Ben Brereton.
Yeah.
He's sort of banging him in for you, and he might have a point to prove as well, coming back obviously to Stoke. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried. Because obviously, like I say, I know you're a good side in good form as well.
Yeah, we are in good form. We're second in the form table, which when I saw that earlier, I was like, yeah, actually we are, because it includes the 7-0 we had at home. But yeah, I'd totally forgotten about the Ben Brereton factor. Obviously going back to Stoke. Dan, just as I asked this next question, just had a comment that we can't hear you as much. The sound is a little bit low. So if there's anything you can do to improve your microphone, that'll be good. But whilst Dan's doing that, I did ask him for his predicted 11 earlier, as we do with all guests on the show. So I'll just pop that onto the screen now. I'm going to ask Dan to talk through that in a moment. But I was just looking at Stoke earlier. I usually do try and focus on some of the key performers, but really for Stoke, Jacob Brown and Nick Powell, they top the goal scoring charts with 5 apiece. And then it's a lower number of goals spread about the side. So nothing really, no kind of overall top scorer like Rovers have got in Ben Brereton, for example. So, Dan, if you could just talk us through this side, what's the formation, who might cause Rovers some problems, and who started the season really well?
Yes, hopefully you can hear me a bit better now. Apologies.
Better now, that's it.
Yeah, so we play a 3-5-2. Like I say, we've got the wing backs, which is sort of key to how we get forward. Like I say, within a minute we are missing Powell, so we're missing Joe Allen, Sam Clucas. So the midfield's a bit depleted at the minute. So what we're going to be looking at, I think, Adam Davies will be in goal because Joe Bursick picked up an injury with the England's under-21 squad last week. So we leaves Adam Davies as the goalkeeper. We've got Leo Ostergaard, Danny Bart and James Chester as the 3 centre-halves. So what I was saying before as well, when we had like Harry Suter as the centre of the 3 centre-backs, we were playing Ben Wilmot on one side, and then it was probably like Leo Ostergaard or James Chester on the other side. Now, what sort of happened was we've sort of gone from that total passing out the back, because without Suter, we're struggling sort of. We bring Danny Bart in basically, and we can't trust. we don't trust him as much with the ball at his feet. So and obviously with Joe Bursick's a much better passer out from the back as well, and much more confident on the ball than Adam Davies says. So it'd be daft really to try and play the same way when we haven't got the centre backs and the goalkeeper that we could rely on to sort of stay calm on the ball. So yeah, so we have sort of switched up our passing a bit. We are getting a little bit more direct, as in just getting the ball into midfield and playing from there rather than keeping it at the back. Don't get me wrong, they're not terrible on the ball, but they're just not as, they're not as confident on the ball, and obviously that's just led to a slight change in style. But yeah, we've still got Smith on the right. Now Joe Allen's red card last night means we've only got 2 centre midfielders, which are Romain Sawyers and Mario Vrancic. Now they've been playing ahead of Joe Allen the last few weeks, but obviously with Joe not being there, I think what we'll see is Sawyers will drop back into sort of more of a deep line playmaker kind of role. And if anyone's like Football Manager, you'll sort of get that kind of chat. He's sort of defensive midfielder in position in like where the area he's playing, but yeah, we can't rely on him really to do much defending. That's not his strong point. So yeah, I think what we're going to have to do is move Josh Timon into centre midfield with them too, and get Alfie Doughty to play left wing back, which isn't bad because he's got loads of speed and everything as well. He's rapid down the wing. He's just him and Timon have sort of Timon's had the place nailed down basically, and Doughty's joined the club last January from Charlton, and he joined with a bad hamstring injury. So he wasn't actually fit until this season, but he just hasn't been able to get into the side for the league games. Timon's just had the place nailed down because he's been playing so well. So it may actually just give Doughty a chance that we might have moved Timon inside because basically we've got nobody else. And then Stephen Fletcher, I know he got a bit of a knock last night, so as long as he's recovered from that, I'm sure he'll play. And there are rumours that Tyrese Campbell will be making his first start of the season. Apparently he didn't start him last night because Michael O'Neill had hinted that he'll be starting on Saturday. So fingers crossed for at Stoke End anyway, that he can recapture some of his old form.
Well, reassuring that obviously there's some key players out for you. Joe Allen hadn't picked up on the fact that he'd got sent off last night, but still Romain Sawyers and Mario Vrancic, 2 quality performers at championship level. So still not looking bad in that centre midfield area for us. But if Rovers are going to hurt you on Saturday, where are the areas of weakness? Where can we cause you some problems?
If you've got somebody you can sort of float between our 2, basically if Timon and Vrancic are going to be playing ahead of Sawyers, if you can get somebody floating between them two and between the three centre halves, that's where you'll get your rewards, really. Because, like I say, Sawyers is very good on the ball and he's good going forward, and he's such a lovely player to watch. But I don't think his defensive brain's quite switched on, so there might be some gaps, and you can sort of play the ball around him a bit. And also, obviously, Withers, the only problem with playing the 3-5-2 is if you have got any width, you can do if you play with, say, get two men out wide and that, you can double up on the fullbacks and that, and play that. We have had a bit of a problem where balls played in behind the wing backs have created a lot of issues for us, but they seem to be a bit more switched on recently. But yeah, if we're chasing the game, that's where exactly the gaps will appear as well.
I mean, with what you said there, two players instantly come to mind for me. John Buckley is one that can definitely float into those spaces and get on the ball and kind of be a link between the midfield three and the front three. But then also Joe Rothwell driving from deep, if he can see a space to go into, and he was sensational last night against Peterborough. They're two players that I'd be looking to exploit those spaces. And even Tyrese Dolan as well. If Sam Gallagher is back and we've got Tyrese Dolan through the middle, kind of in that false nine position, maybe Dolan can take advantage of those spaces. So let us know what you think, Rovers fans, in the comments. That is a game plan for Rovers. Who could hurt Stoke on Saturday. Callum, it's Tyrese Campbell. I think Fraser Campbell's at Huddersfield, actually. It's the son of Kevin, isn't it, Dan, who Tyrese Campbell is?
Yeah, Kevin Campbell's son, yeah.
That's it. Cool. So we have reached the part of the show then, Dan, where I'm going to put you and I on the spot. Let's just get the overlay back on for where you and I are. There we go. Even though we can't see your video due to
I don't know why the cameras are on.
It's gone, hasn't it? But let us know how you think the game's going to go and let me know your score. But Rovers fans, as usual, load the comments. How do you think the game's going to go? Dan's just told us there's a couple of key players missing. We obviously knew about Harry Souttar already, but a couple of other key performers there who might be carrying knocks or indeed suspended, like Joe Allen. So has that filled you with a bit of confidence with Rovers in form? Or is the Stoke home form still something that's too strong for you? So let us know in the comments. We'll run through those predictions before we finish the stream. But Dan, how do you think the game's going to go? What's your score prediction?
I'll be to be honest, after losing last night, I'd be happy to take a point. I think you've had some good results against us as well in recent years, especially I think you've beaten us twice, haven't you, at our place?
We have, yeah.
So yeah, I'd take a point just so we don't get back-to-back defeats, and gives us something to build on going into them the other key games that we've got coming up as well. I think 1-1.
1-1. So I'm trying to find a reason to predict a Rovers win here, but I've just got Daniel Ayala going off injured last night. Just makes me just doubt myself a little bit, because Bradley Johnson covered there admirably last night, but in truth, he wasn't really tested by Peterborough. But Jan-Paul van Hecker is coming back from his suspension, and I do wonder whether Mowbray will throw him into a back three with Lenihan and with Scott Wharton. So maybe it'll be Bradley Johnson again. I think he will be tempted to do the wing backs again, because you play wing backs. We do tend to see that from Tony Mowbray. But with some of the players that you've got missing, you are filling me with a bit of confidence there, Dan. We have got Sam Gallagher, who should be coming back as well, to freshen up that front three. But if we are playing wing backs, will there be a place for Sam Gallagher? I don't know. So a lot is going to rest on the formation and how Mowbray wants to go with this. And I think with what you said about that space, and with Joe Allen missing, Sawyers dropping in, and that space, Mowbray might look to just load the midfield a little bit and get some foot on the ball and things. So, yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 Rovers. You've convinced me, Dan. You've convinced me. But I'm not underestimating it. Stoke's home form has been impressive this season, but maybe it's one game too many for Stoke with the suspensions, with the injuries, with the fact that the squad's a little bit thinner. Rovers are actually coming into this, Ayala's injury aside, we're looking pretty fresh and looking in good shape. So 2-1 Rovers, I'll say. Let us know what you think in the comments, Rovers fans. You've got probably about a minute to get your score prediction in. Let us know how you think the game's going to go. We've had a couple already. Kev, you're going 2-1 Rovers. Good man. Callum is going 3-0 to Rovers. And what's he said here? I'm feeling good, and Stoke aren't ruining my weekend. There we are. Good on you, Callum. So Rovers fans, you've got about 30 seconds before I'll finish the stream. But Dan, just want to thank you for giving up your time on this Thursday evening. And sorry about your internet connection. Would have been good to see you on the camera, but the internet gods have not persisted with us tonight. So thank you for your insight and for filling me with some confidence, actually.
No, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you for having me on.
No worries. We've had one more prediction from Sai. He goes 1-1. See, I was leaning towards that, Sai, but I'm going for 2-1. I'm going for it. Fancy us to go and do it. So there we go. That is the end of tonight's stream. On the other side, as I say, big thank you to Dan for giving his insight on Stoke. We'll be back with all of the usual content on Saturday, instant reaction and match day experience video. We'll have a match preview video as well, which we will record at some point between now and Saturday as well. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please give this video a big like for me. And Dan, I'll say have a good evening to you. Rovers fans, enjoy the rest of your evening. And we'll leave you with our sponsor message. See you later. The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.